um, Twitter X. I'll never, I'll never get that right. And YouTube. I'm broadcasting to you live, but I'm also broadcasting to Instagram via my phone. How are you this evening? I've got a little bit of information that I want to share with you really quickly. I want to talk about the three most significant health issues that are silently sort of stalking women on the other side of 40 years old. Things that we don't even talk about when we talk about the 40 plus woman and her being active in midlife and menopause, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I shouldn't say we don't talk about, but it's not commonplace because it doesn't lend itself to great marketing, right? All of the sales in working with women as a personal trainer, a nutrition coach, a wellness professional in menopause are usually predicated around, oh, I've gained weight in the midsection, or I don't like the extra weight that I've gained, period, or I have symptoms, obviously symptoms of perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause spectrum, and we often don't talk about the more weighty, heavier, and no pun intended, but the significant issues of health. Because a lot of times in wellness, we address lifespan, and a lot of times in wellness, we do not address health span. I'm a believer in health span because my mother lived to 77 years old, which reasonably, I mean, that's a reasonable life, 77. She didn't exercise. She had a stroke at 60. So she lived for 17 years of her life, relatively incapacitated. Her children, my older brother, my older sister, and myself gave her care. So did my awesome, amazing aunt, Betty, and my awesome, amazing uncle, her brother and sister, Jerry and Betty. They helped give her care. But her health span was 60 years. Her lifespan was 77 years. So 17 of those years. So I want to talk about the three really significant, really important, specifically dangerous things that are common health conditions that are more prevalent on the other side of 40 as estrogen withdrawals than they are on the early side of 40. I got to pay the bills first though, because this is what I do for a living. So I'm currently in my enrollment week for my signature program. It's called Women's Liberation Movement. I'm a certified personal trainer, a certified corrective exercise specialist, a certified level 1 and 2 nutrition coach, and I have 3 different certifications for menopause wellness. One is of course through Dr. Stacy Sims, one is a certification through MedFit, and one is through Girls Gone Strong. Shout out to all those organizations that have educated me. In any case, I'm currently enrolling about 5 women over 30 who want to reclaim their body again, want to feel at home in their body again. I hear that so much. I feel like this isn't my body, but also want to establish a healthy relationship with food without any food restriction or calorie counting or macronutrient counting. It's fine if you do that out there, professionals. Don't at me, bro. It's just not what we do. And who want to spend less time in the gym and more time lifing, because that's what the gym is for. It's for life. If that sounds like a program that might interest you, just DM me the word live, Live. We'll talk about the program, see if it might be a good fit for you. Let's get into the context of discussion because I don't want to delay with that. So the first 3 things that I want to talk about today. The first thing is going to be sarcopenia. This is age-related muscle loss. This is a big, sweeping, crazy, important health issue for women, particularly in the menopause spectrum, because as you get into perimenopause, the early stages of menopause, you have a rapid onset of what we call sarcopenia, this age-related muscle loss. But we are finding through more recent studies, as a matter of fact, I cited one the other day, we're finding out through more recent studies that the crazy increase in muscle loss happens in the perimenopausal phase. Now, the perimenopausal phase can start as early as 36, 37, right? Sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, usually starts in your 30s, ladies. So post 30, you're starting to lose muscle at a pretty good significant rate, but not at a particularly rapid rate. So if you're not addressing strength training, we'll circle back around to that. If you're not addressing strength training, you're effectively getting a little bit more feeble every single year of your life post 30, and you're effectively getting a little less toned. I know that's a buzzword in the fitness industry. I understand the differentiation between the word and what people mean, but for lack of a better term here, you're getting less toned every single year if you're not strength training. And then, once estrogen starts to fluctuate and withdraw in that perimenopausal phase, bam, rocket ship. You're losing muscle at an alarming rate. And most of the muscle loss that women are going to encounter if they are not strength training is going to happen then. Well, what does that mean, Ren? Like, why is that important? I'm not a muscle head. I don't want to be a muscle babe or whatever people call muscle these days. I don't know. But it's important for a few reasons. One is muscle. Yeah, I know, right? Ashley was like, no. One reason, hey, Ashley, great coach there. If you happen to encounter the lovely Ashley Rogers, she's on Facebook, and you need a coach, she's a fine coach to hire. And she just told me that the term I was looking for was muscle mommy. Thank you so much for that, Ashley. That's exactly why you were sick. So you may think I'm not in that category, right? But muscle is, and I said this on last night's live, muscle is dancing. Muscle is quality time with your significant other, right? Bow chicka wow wow. Muscle is vacationing. Muscle is doing the best on your occupation, whatever that might be. Muscle is snatching your kid up when they get a little too mouthy. I've been snatched up. You need muscle for that. My mom was strong before that stroke. She snatched me right up. Snatch a knot in me is the term that she used to use so eloquently. Smart woman. Muscle is your retirement, all right? Muscle is your 401k. We'll dive into what it means a little bit more soon. But as I always say, if you remember grandma or G-mama or mama or abuela or whatever name you associate with your grandmother, if you remember them getting feeble, needing help to get in and out of the shower or in and out of the bathtub, my mother certainly did, needing help to get on or off the toilet, so many people post 70 years of age are going to be confined to extended living simply because they cannot do a squat, right? They can't squat to the toilet, squat to the bed, or get off the toilet, get off of the bed. And that is truly a shame that starts in your 30s, but it's rapidly accelerated when you get into the perimenopause spectrum, ladies. So you want to watch out for that, because unless it's your dream for someone to give you long-term care in your 60s and 70s, you want to maintain that muscle. So how do we get around that, Ren? Easy answer, strength training, right? So we know what that situation is. Let's talk about how to rectify it, and simply strength or resistance training. Now, you may be thinking strength training is solely lifting weights, or resistance training is lifting weights. I like the term resistance training here a lot, and I use it a lot because resistance training sort of gives you an indication of what's going on, and fundamentally, you're resisting gravity, right, in some way. Whether I've got a weight in my hand, 10 is the weight, it's the lightest weight I ever lifted. Let's make it barbell shaped. That made it fun. Whether I got a barbell in my hand or not, I am resisting the pull of gravity on this barbell to go down. So I'm resisting that. Whether I am pushing against something, pushing against the wall, pushing against the floor, doing a push-up, right? I'm resisting gravity's pull that wants to pull me down to the floor. So resistant, whether I have bands, right? In the case of a band, I'm resisting force. The force of gravity, maybe not, but the force of the band and its elasticity or lack thereof. Throwing a lot of $100 words out here tonight, man. I sound really smart. Like, I sound like I know what I'm talking about. When I'm resisting the band, pulling a band apart or stepping on a band and curling it up, I'm resisting the force that's trying to pull away from me in some shape, form, or fashion, doing that is an asset to maintaining your muscle. As a matter of fact, doing it 2 or 3 times a week can be foundational to you not melting away, right? If you're not doing that, you're going to melt away. I had a client one time that told me, her words, not mine, I'm not making this up. She said, I want to lose weight, Ren, but I want to strength train. I don't want that melted candle look. And as offensive as that may sound, I immediately understood what she was trying to not do with her body, right? So if you want to stay away from, quote unquote, that melted candle look, I'm not big on commenting on people's bodies, but if that's a goal for you, that is strength training, that's resistance training, and that will keep you out of the clutches. Clutches is a good word for October because it's spooky season. That'll keep you out of the salacious clutches of sarcopenia. The salacious clutches, that could be a garage band. If I start a garage band, we're going to be called salacious clutches of sarcopenia. So that's something that you want to consider because that's a big risk factor for your long-term health, losing your muscle. That's one of the big three. When I get to the last one, I'm going to tie muscle into it. I just don't want to give it away yet, but it's a bigger deal than just being feeble, just being able to do a bigger deal. Right? Bone loss, osteopenia, brittle bones, osteoporosis. This is the second thing that has a particularly rapid onset when you get into the perimenopause, menopause to postmenopause spectrum, because estrogen, again, is supplying the fuel for helping you to maintain your bone strength and density and bone health. And as estrogen starts to withdraw, you're having a harder and harder time maintaining the strength of those bones, to the extent that you're probably going to become pretty brittle, along with having become feeble. So now you can barely move around. You're not as ambulatory. You don't have the ability to control your center mass, right? You can't dictate where your body goes because you're too weak. And also, cherry on top, if you fall off of something or onto something or down into something, the chance of you breaking your bones is increased. Particularly in the perimenopause, menopause spectrum, we see a rapid increase in fracturing in the lower spine and in the hips. Those seem to be the places that are initially most problematic. And again, you might be able to think back to an elder woman in your family that broke a hip or had a low back issue, and it ruined her ability to live, right? There's a generous percentage of elderly women and elderly people across the board who, when they break a bone, they never come home, right? They don't come back. Sounding like Johnny Cochran line. I didn't mean for it to rhyme, but when they break something, they never get out of the hospital. That break leads to their ultimate demise. So your loss of skeleton bone, and what's that? That's your posture, right? That's your ability to carry your own weight around with you, whatever that weight may be. Notwithstanding, your bone is your foundation for your body, and in the absence of that, we've all seen people that have that probably elderly people that have a terribly humped back, something to that extent, right? That's the brittleness, the onset of osteopenia. So how do we get around that? Because that's dangerous, and that's also an issue that raises the likelihood of morbidity. You're gonna die. Everybody's gonna die anyway at some point, but you don't want to suffer, for many years before you transition. But in any case, how do we get around that? We get around that with some strength training, number one, that generous pull of force against your bones reinforces them, which is awesome. I mean, it makes sense. So if I'm doing the strength training, I'm resisting the gravity, The pull of the muscle on the bone is one of the things that helps strengthen it. The second thing is impact training. Some people call it jump training. We also hear the term plyometric training, right? And this is just getting your body off of the ground and back onto the ground. And it doesn't have to be box jumping 3 feet in the air. You could simply be hopping off of a curb. You could be hopping up onto a curb, right? We just want to make sure that it's multi-directional to get the proper impact and to create the proper stimulus for your bones to remodel themselves. We need multi-directional, we call it multi-planar. We need multi-directional movement. So unfortunately, something like running will not do it. Fortunately, something like running back and forth and up and back to hit a pickleball will, or a tennis ball will do it. Things like jumping rope may not, but if you're able to jump side to side or forward and back, or you're able to turn as you jump, that will do it. And you only get this. The research shows you only need 10 minutes of it 3 days a week. So for my clients who are able to do it, I just put it right into their warm up, right? Just have them do a few jumps, sometimes up and back, sometimes side to side, because I know if they're working out 3 times a week, typically they're going to get an appropriate amount of jump training. So the impact on your bones signals your bones, because your bones are smart apparently. I don't know if they could come up with something like the stuff I come up with. Bones aren't smarter than me, but bones are smart, and if you give them impact, they're going to respond by remodeling. The stress is going to make them resilient. They're going to come back from the stress, and they're going to grow stronger for you. And this, again, will keep you independent throughout your life and lower the risk of all-cause morbidity, lower the risk of you dying from some freaky stuff. The third big cog in this thing, and probably the most important, is cardiovascular disease, right? Because of the fact that the estrogen, the estrogen that was flowing through your body during your reproductive years up into the perimenopausal phase, because of the fact that it's so protective of your cardiovascular system, you got to understand these receptors. Another way to look at it is the outlets for the estrogen plugs, right? Estrogen lands on a receptor. The receptor communicates to the tissue. These receptors for estrogen are all throughout your body. They are in your digestive system. They are in your cardiovascular system. They're in your musculoskeletal system. So that means if the outlet's there, the plug is important, right? If the receptor for estrogen is there, estrogen is important to that tissue. And your cardiovascular system is no different, heart and lungs, et cetera, et cetera. So cardiovascular disease, the incidence of cardiovascular disease shoots up in the menopause spectrum, right? For many years, women are protected by the estrogen, and they're more protected than men are from cardiovascular disease. So it's really quite common to hear about men having heart attacks. My brother had 2. The second one killed him, right? But for women, not so much early on in their lives. But once the menopause spectrum hits, look, my mother had a massive cardiovascular incident at 60. Back then, I was 20, 21 years old, I think, and I'm 49 now. So I didn't have any clue as to what was going on with her, and the things that led to a mini stroke, a TIA, and eventually led to a massive stroke that, again, crippled her for the next 17 years of her life. I didn't know all that stuff then, but looking back, I see the signs. She did not exercise regularly. She was also a smoker. She wasn't obese or overweight necessarily, but just didn't prioritize health. Health is not a point of intellect that I was able to be gifted from my mother. She gave me many other intellectual gifts, but the gift of health was not one of them. Aside from my horror at dealing with the health implications of her decisions, and my brothers and my sisters. But in any case, that cardiovascular disease, ladies, is the number 1 killer of women in the world. Number 1 across the board. 1 out of 3 women, right? This is that speech they give you at the beginning of a hard class in university. Look to your left, look to your right, one of you won't be here after blah, 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 semester, whatever year, 4 years. That's the same speech for cardiovascular incident, and the rate of cardiovascular incident shoots up like an Elon Musk rocket ship or a penis-shaped Jeff Bezos rocket ship to almost space. That's the risk of cardiovascular disease. So how do we attenuate that? Muscle. I told you we get back to the muscle, right? There's a direct correlation to lack of muscle and increased risk of metabolic disease. Cardiovascular disease fits into the confines of metabolic conditions. But yes, the more muscle that you have on your body, and trust me, you can't put a lot of muscle on your body, ladies. That's very hard to do. You don't have the testosterone. Now you also don't have the estrogen to help you build muscle. And you're probably not willing to eat in a way that would cause you to be a massive, hulking woman. But if you can, that'd be cool. But muscle is cardioprotective also, right? So we're back to that strength training, back to what I talked about last night about getting enough protein, and the reason I don't really advise fasting for women over 40. So making sure that your strength training will keep you protected from the withdrawal of estrogen that is literally breaking your heart, right? And it's a great euphemism for life, because a lot of us, when we have our heart broken, we go to the gym and we train and we get strong. That's part of our therapy. Some of us started exercise that way, but what a great corollary to the actual physical representation of estrogen leaving your body, your heart's beginning to actually break physically, and going to the gym to supply your body and mind with what it needs for you to circumvent that. So let's do what we can to stay away from, loss of muscle that's going to make you feeble and prevent you from controlling your body in physical spaces. The lack of bone density, which is going to make you brittle and contribute to your inability to live the life that you want, and the possibility that you may be confined for long periods of time based on the fact that your bones break easily and they have a hard time healing. And let's please stay away from the absolute number one killer of women around the world, killing 1 out of every 3 women, cardiovascular disease, by working towards resistance training and maintaining our muscle. I'm often asked what I would tell a woman in her 20s and what I would tell a woman in her 30s. I work with women 30 and up, about the midlife journey. Women in their 20s, and I got this from my friend Deanna Harder. Shout out to Deanna, Canada's finest. I got this from her. I would tell them to put on as much muscle as you possibly can in your 20s. That's what I would tell them. And that would be very little. You'll end up looking like a Hollywood starlet more often than not. You'll look like a Hollywood action heroine, maybe like a Gal Gadot, or is it Gadot or Gadot? I can't. Wonder Woman. Like, that's how you'll look like probably like a badass. But in your 20s, I would say put on as much muscle as you possibly can. In your 30s, I would say stop restricting calories. Get off the diet roller coaster. Eat to be fueled instead of eating for shrinking your body, because you're going to need to be properly fueled throughout your 40s, lest you fall into a state where you fall into low energy availability. A discussion for another time. And women in their 40s and beyond, I would say never stop training. Find your lane, whatever that training is, and keep doing it. And if you have access to a menopause-informed professional, a thrice certified menopause personal trainer, nutrition coach, and corrective exercise specialist, wink, wink, latch on to that gifted human being as much as you can. I got to pay the bills one more time, then I'm out of here. I'm currently enrolling 5 women over 30 who want to reclaim their body, right? Rebuild the relationship with their body, rebuild the muscle, reinforce their bones, and live healthfully through their 80s without restricting foods, without counting calories, macronutrients, without weighing food, and without spending hours and hours in the gym turning the tread on the mill, right? No treadmilling for days. If that sounds like something that might be a good fit for you, that could help you be whatever version of yourself you ideally see yourself to be, reach out to me, DM me, message me, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. Message me the word live, Live, so I know where you heard my plea. And on Instagram, you guys right here, just send me a DM with the word live. I'll ask you a few questions in the DM, ask you a few questions in the messaging to see what it is you want to get accomplished, see if what I do might be a fit for that, and we'll go from there. If not, we'll part as friends. That's my quick and, well, not so quick, but that's my live broadcast to this evening. Share it with a friend, tag a friend in it, let them see this as pertinent information, and I'll see y'all next time. I'm going to try to do this at 8 in the morning tomorrow, but that's predicated on me going to sleep. I don't even have my watch on. I don't know what time it is, but we'll see. In any case, good evening to you. I hope something that I said was helpful for you, and we'll see you next time.